Everything's on fire. Everything's on fire. Everything's on fire.
Welcome back to the Dynasty Heat Seekers live stream. I'm your host, Rick Butts, here with Anthony Leone and Jason Abold. And we are going to be talking about some players that you could target for the stretch run of this season. We know there's been a bunch of injuries. We're going to talk about some of those replacements. And then guys that maybe you can buy low and they can help you come playoff time or get into the playoffs if you're on the fringe. So we're going to start off with some news and notes from Anthony. But remember, hit that like button. Make sure you're subscribed if you're not. And ask your questions in the chat, and we will get to those at different breaks in the stream, and ask them once. We will go straight down the list, so don't worry about posting 8 times. It ain't gonna get you answered any quicker. So, Anthony, what do we have for news and notes this week?
Yeah, well, welcome, guys. Welcome if you're on the stream here. We've had a lot of quarterback issues this past weekend. Breeze got hurt. He's out indefinitely. Broken ribs, collapsed lung. So we don't know how long he's going to be out for. We're going to talk about his possible replacement coming up on our show. Bridgewater has a knee injury. His status is to be determined. I don't know if he's going to play. It looks like they're more optimistic he'll play. But, we don't know for sure yet. And then Nick Foles, your Bears got a little beat up last night. And it looks like he's going to be out for an extended period of time. Well, they have a bye week coming up, though, so we'll see what happens after the bye. So, yeah, just a bunch of quarterback issues. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on any of these guys. I guess a lot of it, for Dynasty, you just kind of hope for the best and hope they get back in there. Jason, any thoughts on these guys?
Yeah, I mean, for Breeze, I think he's probably going to be done for the year, just my opinion. I think, the broken ribs and a collapsed lung, I think that's going to set him back longer than people are imagining and hoping for. But, yeah, I think, Jameis Winston's going to have a good shot to take over as their starting quarterback. And, I mean, they'll mix in Taysom Hill, too, because they like to use him. But, yeah, we'll see what happens with that. And with Bridgewater, I mean, it's another setback for him, which is a bummer. And, he's been having a good year. But, yeah, I think PJ Walker is the guy that's going to be stepping in for them. And then Nick Foles, he got beat up by my Vikings. And hopefully Trubisky can come back and be healthy. And I don't know. We'll see with that. What do you think, Rick?
Luckily, there's a bye, so one of those guys can get healthy. When it comes to fantasy, Trubisky's the better fantasy option, right? We've talked about this a number of times. Like, you don't have to be a good NFL quarterback to be a solid fantasy option, right? Jameis Winston blew the world away last year playing bad football. When it comes to Chicago, it might not matter. That offensive line is so bad. We've seen, you've watched the Vikings all year. They haven't been able to get very much pressure on anybody all year, especially after making some trades and some moves and some injuries. That's how bad the Bears line is right now, and I don't know that it matters for the run game, for the pass game, for anything on that offense. It's pitiful. I'm looking forward to hopefully drafting a quarterback next year, and maybe they'll be better than what we've had. When it comes to Jameis Winston, you hope that he's learned something this year from Drew Brees and Sean Payton, but they're not even they didn't name him the starter yet, have they? Because last I heard,
no, they have.
Payton was saying he didn't want to name a starter and give something away, and I believe just a week ago, I know late in the game, what's his name? I'm drawing a blank.
Taysom Hill?
Taysom Hill, yeah. Was their leading rusher at one point. I don't know if he ended up leading them the entire game, but it was at least late in the third quarter he was their leading rusher. So they love using him, and I wouldn't be surprised if he started, but then they did some like off and on depending on situations, and mixed them both in there either. So it's tough to just feel comfortable throwing in whoever gets the start there until we see how Sean Payton uses them, because Sean Payton loves Taysom Hill, and he gets decent runs sometimes with Drew Brees healthy. So what's going to happen with Drew Brees not healthy? I have no idea. Um, but and then the other one we were talking about, who else got hurt? Oh, Bridgewater. Yeah.
Bridgewater.
PJ Walker is probably a good fantasy option, right? We know he can run a little bit, and they have good weapons on that offense. So, I probably, if he started, I probably wouldn't hesitate to throw him in there unless I had great options at quarterback, just because he may have 40 yards rushing in him, and that gives you a pretty good floor at the quarterback position. So. The other one, though, that I don't know if you have this on your news and notes, but we have Dalton coming back, right? It looks like he's going to be back this week for Dallas. So if you had Dalton on your roster, that might be a little bit of relief there, because I know I had Drew Brees on a team where I had Ryan Fitzpatrick and Dalton, so I had no quarterbacks after Drew Brees went out. So I'm hoping Dalton comes back so I don't have to, I hate trading for QBs in one QB leagues, but yeah, at least that's a little bit of relief on the quarterback front. We don't have Ben DiNucci in there or Gilbert in that game, and that might help the wide receivers there, right? We might get some improvement from the wide receivers in Dallas that everybody wants to start with CD Lamb, Michael Gallup, and Amari Cooper.
Yeah, Jason said that he doesn't think Brees will be back. I think Brees will be back. I think it might be a month, but they're still in playoff contention. I would expect Brees to be back. In the meantime, I expect Jameis to start. But even if Taysom Hill doesn't start, I still think he's going to be valuable in leagues where you can play him as a tight end. I know ESPN for sure is like this. I know some people have dynasty leagues on ESPN, though I don't recommend that platform for dynasty. But nonetheless, I know people still use it. So if you can get him on your roster as a tight end, I think he's going to be involved, even if he's not the starting quarterback. So something to keep an eye out, especially on waivers tonight. See if Taysom Hill's out there in tight end eligible leagues. Moving on, AB is back. He's back for two reasons on my news and notes. First of all, he had double-digit PPR scoring again. He had a pretty solid game, a lot of receptions. He didn't score, but he had a lot of receptions, a lot of yards. I have to say he looked pretty good out there. He's also back because he's still batshit crazy. He threw a bicycle at a security guard. Apparently, the NFL didn't know about this incident, so they're investigating it. So I guess we'll see what happens with AB. I think if you have him, like we've said all along, if you have him, you just got to hold on and just hope for the best. Rick, any thoughts on?
You gotta ride it like a BMX bike, right? Like you're gonna have those ups and downs, and you just never know what you're gonna get out of AB. But the positive part of this was that no charges were filed. So hopefully that plays into him being able to at least stick it out through the end of the season. And they, apparently he worked it out with the home association or something. But It's funny though. It kind of drives me nuts how this stuff it happened over a month ago, and it only comes out when these guys start doing well. Then they want to spill the beans, and it's like if you're gonna let it go, let it go. And then somebody talks, and then this stuff comes out, and now you're trying to ruin a guy's payday, and that's where I kind of get irked by it, right? Like, yeah, if he should have been punished, then you should have filed charges and taken care of it then, not wait for him to move on and actually maybe
and then leak it out,
be moving forward and doing something better, and then bring it up again, because then all you're doing is if like say he got suspended, all you're doing is opening up that book again for him to go ballistic, and right now living with Tom Brady might be the best mental health he's been in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Jason.
Yeah, you said it right. I mean, it's just too bad that they wait until he has a good game and then they bring out the news about that. But I mean, AB is still elite, and he's working his way back into this offense. So I mean, he's gonna get his opportunity, and there's plenty of mouths to feed, as people say in the fantasy world. But this guy can put up numbers, and he can be a producer for you in the long stretch here, just as long as he's on the
It's
field.
really impressive that he's come in after over 400 days away from football and immediately been one of their top target getters in the first 2 games that he's been back. I mean, that's just how good of a football player he is. It's really impressive.
Yeah, and that's our news and notes. I kept it short and sweet. We can get right into our stretch run advice here.
All right, so it looks like MathQuest over on YouTube had a question, and I'm assuming this is for redraft. He said, "Good evening, Heat Seekers. Should I drop Jonathan Taylor to pick up Damian Harris off the waiver wire?" So, Anthony, would you drop Jonathan Taylor to pick up Damian Harris?
I would. I think Sony Michel is coming back, so that's something to keep but I don't think Sony Michel's going to take over what Damian Harris is doing. Damian Harris looks really good. Jonathan Taylor stuck in the committee. I don't know if you guys disagree with that, but I would rather roll with Damian Harris going forward in a redraft league for sure.
Yeah, I'd rather have I'd rather have Damian Harris, and I would drop Jonathan Taylor just because Naheem Hines is starting to take over in that backfield for the Colts. So that kind of worries me a lot when he's getting all the work, grinding in between the tackles and as a pass catcher. So that kind of scares me. But yeah, I like what Damian Harris is doing, and I'm not really scared of Sony Michel at all. What do you think, Rick?
I don't mind dropping Jonathan Taylor, but I would like to know what else is out there because you've got the same issues for both teams, right? We don't know who's going to get to work any given week, and that's the biggest frustration when it comes to running back because when you can predict those touches, then you can predict decent fantasy days. And right now it's Naeem Hines 1 week, and then it's Jordan Wilkins another week, and then Taylor kind of shines, and then it like cycles all over again. And then we know New England's been that way for years, right? That's no secret. We've never felt comfortable throwing New England running backs into our lineups because it's just you never know what you're going to get. 1 week's a Rex Burkhead week, 1 week's a James White week, 1 week's a Damian Harris week, and it's just so on and so forth. So, I wouldn't mind looking at some of these other teams that don't have as many guys in the pipeline, right? Maybe a Justin Jackson is on the waiver wire. Eckler's supposed to come back, but we haven't seen it yet, and we don't know how much work he's going to get when he gets back. But there is Kalen Balaj, and I think they're done forcing it to Joshua Kelly, right? I don't think they're forcing it to him.
Well, Justin Jackson went to IR.
Okay, so but that's been 2 weeks, right? No, because he got hurt on the first play of the last week, so he's got at least 2 weeks left on the IR. But then so then you can look at Kalen Balaj, who's got a lot of the work the last couple weeks, and then we're gonna talk about Austin Eckler later. We'll just throw that out there, but
I would just hope if he could not, if I don't know who else he could drop. I don't like dropping potential running backs. Like I'm in a league where I think I have to drop Akers, but I don't want to. So if there's any way to avoid dropping Jonathan Taylor, who could be a legit starting running back on your team, like a running back too, I would just try to avoid doing that. So I don't know who else he could possibly drop, but I hate dropping running backs. It's one of my things I like to avoid.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that, but if you're getting another running back that maybe have a better opportunity, then I think it's an easier pill to swallow. But running back's a lot tougher than it used to be, right? Because we only have a handful of guys that are the guy for their team. And whether you like them or not, they're easier to put in your lineup, right? Even a guy like David Montgomery, for a bad offense, at least we know he's the one getting all the touches when he's healthy, with a few sprinkled into other people. We just don't have that with a lot of teams. You mentioned the Rams, right? Darrell Henderson starts off, or actually Cam Akers started off this week getting most of the carries, and then it went to Darrell Henderson, and then Malcolm Brown ended up scoring 2 touchdowns, right?
Right.
So try to figure that out on a week-to-week basis. It's a pain in the ass. And we just don't have very many of those guys, so you got to kind of take your shots where you can. And that's why I like looking at some of these guys on teams where there's a potential for them to get at least a majority of them. And if Austin Eckler doesn't come back, then a guy like Kalen Ballage or even Joshua Kelly, who hasn't got as many lately, but those are guys that are one injury away from getting like all the touches on their team. Salvin Ahmed right now in Miami is getting all the touches. Obviously, if you could go out, maybe you can get Myles Gaskin real cheap, and maybe he comes back in a couple weeks, and then you've got, he was getting all the work before he got hurt. So there are options out there, but man, it's running back's tough right now. Running back and tight end are both really tough right now. It's real easy week to week to shove in your quarterbacks and wide receivers, and then trying to figure out who to start. J.D. McKissick, right? This dude's catching like 8-9 balls a week. You throw him in your lineup, and if you can get him for real cheap, then he's another option. I can't believe we didn't even, when we were talking about this show, we never even mentioned J.D. McKissick, but he has to be talked about right now because he's getting targeted so many times. Anything else on Math Quest question there? And hopefully that answers it for you. It was a long-winded answer, but that's how tough running back is right now. Not everybody can have the dual threat like the Cleveland Browns with Chubb and Hunt, right? Like,
Right.
not everybody can have 200-yard rushers in the same game. So, yeah, I hate running back right now. Okay, so first we are going to talk about some stretch run buys. Some of these guys are, had injuries ahead of them. Some of them have had players traded ahead of them. Some of them are just guys that are probably cheaper than they should be, or maybe they're on the back end of their career and are cheaper because of that. And we're going to start off with quarterback. And my guy at quarterback is Ben Roethlisberger. He's up there in age. He shouldn't cost you a lot to get, but if you're having quarterback problems, right now Pittsburgh does not want to run the ball. We've seen it like 3 to 4 straight weeks here where they just keep passing because they've got, maybe the second best wide receiver core 1 through 4 to Tampa Bay, with Juju and Deontay Johnson and Claypool, and even James Washington and his opportunities is doing real well there. So I like Ben Roethlisberger because we know matchups don't really matter. He can do it against anybody with that talent around him. And, he's not going to cost you a whole lot. It's not going to wreck your future if it doesn't work out for you, but he can definitely put up points in a bunch. What do you think about that, Jason?
Oh, I love the pick. I mean, yeah, who doesn't want a quarterback on a team that's undefeated still? And they're just putting up constant numbers. They have a great wide receiver group, like you say. And they aren't running. I mean, they were earlier on in the year, but now they're just, letting it loose and throwing it off to Claypool. And, Juju's getting some work in. Deontay Johnson's their alpha, it seems. So, I mean, I love that offense, and I think Ben Roethlisberger is one of the comeback players of the year. So everyone's talking about Alex Smith right now, and that's a great story there. But really, I think it's Ben Roethlisberger. What do you think, Anthony?
Yeah, I agree 100%. The only hesitation I have is that they get so far ahead in the standings, they don't need to play week 16 and 17, and they don't need to chuck the ball as much. That's my only concern. I know maybe Rick may rebut that and say, well, you can't assume that's going to happen. I mean, you have to just play the games that you have in front of you right now. And if you're trying to get to the playoffs and fantasy, then you just got to make that push. So I'm cool with that. I think it's a good pick. I think he's a good target. But that's the only thing in the back of my mind that I'm a little kind of worried about because they are undefeated. They have a 3-game lead on the Ravens. And the only other team in the AFC that's going to be a competition for the number 1 seed is Kansas City, who I don't know if they're going to expect to beat them or not anyway. So that's just my only concern on that front.
Yeah, I wouldn't really argue with that either, except for I'm never really worried about week 16. If you're playing in week 17 in your fantasy league, then that's I just highly recommend against that because of these reasons. So I'm not as worried about Week 16, but I definitely get the concern if they would happen to have a 2-game lead or a 3-game lead on the number 1 seed going into that, then we might see them take it easy. But I don't think any team wants to give their quarterback or their players a month off. If they're getting a bye,
Yeah.
3 weeks, I suppose, would be what they would be getting off. But I don't know that anybody wants to do that. So he'd play probably at least most of the game. But yeah, I don't necessarily disagree either.
Yeah.
Jason, you are up next.
Yeah, I got Jameis Winston for the Saints. Yeah, I think he's gonna step in as their starter, and this is chomp on a W. Yeah, I think he's gonna be their starter, and a lot of people are, like we were talking about earlier, is the Taysom Hill factor, and yeah, he's a good gadget guy, but I think they're gonna air it out with Jameis Winston, and then they got Michael Thomas who's working his way back in, and I think it's just a great opportunity for this guy to make a name for himself again, because he was putting up good fantasy numbers last year, and people have kind of forgot about him. They've got him stashed on the bench, but this is his chance to get a new contract and maybe get a new team, or maybe even re-sign with the Saints. So I just like the factor of him coming in there and letting loose and seeing what he can do. What do you think
I'm
there,
not
Rick?
laughing at you, by the way. I just had the thought
All
of
right.
how ironic would it be for me if Jameis Winston was the starting quarterback in Chicago next year?
That
Like, literally, there was
wouldn't be
there was a
bad.
point in this past off season where it was said that Teddy Bridgewater was signing with Chicago, and then we got the old oopty doop, and next thing you know, he's in Carolina, and the Bears are trading for Nick Foles. But I we know the kid has raw talent, right? But it's always just been between the ears. Has been the issue with him. So hopefully he's learned something. We know he can put up fantasy points, so I have no arguments when it comes to the fantasy side of stuff. Even if he doesn't play well, he can put up big numbers real quick. So yep, no arguments on Jameis Winston.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I think, I do expect him to be the starter. I don't think I would go out and buy him from someone until that's confirmed, because I do think there is still a possibility that Taysom Hill is, although I think it's unlikely, but still, because I don't think his price is going to change once he's named the starter. So I would just wait to make sure. But yeah, I mean, I think he offers a lot of upside, and I expect at least next month Breeze to be out. So I think if you're looking for some upside, if you need a quarterback down this last stretch here, I think that's a good call.
All right, Anthony. So who is your quarterback?
So my quarterback is Carson Wentz. I think right now is a good opportunity to buy on him, because he just played against the Giants and had a very poor showing. I think that kind of creates another opportunity to get this guy if you need a quarterback in the stretch run. He has his receivers coming back. Sanders looks good. Rigger looked good. Uh, Goddard's back, and I think he'll be better. Ertz is going to be back soon. Alshon and Fulgham. I guess Fulgham's still a thing, but I just I just think that Wentz is undervalued right now. He had a bad game. I'm not saying he didn't, but again, that just creates an opportunity for you to go get him right now if you need a quarterback. The next 3 games, they have the Browns, Seattle, Green Bay. Should be pretty good matchups. Now, granted, I know the Giants should have been a good matchup too, and that didn't pan out so well. So it's not like he's matchup proof or he's going to exploit every bad matchup. I don't think that's the case, but I do think that this is a good opportunity to get him, and I do think that if his value is to go up, it's going to be over these next few games. So I think this is the time to get him if you need a quarterback.
Yeah.
Jason. Or
No,
Rick,
no,
go
no.
ahead.
I was just gonna say, he was already on the sheet when I got to the sheet, and he would have been my pick at quarterback, because this may have been he may have just been surprised to actually have his weapons on the field this week. He's not used to having all these guys. He's like, what's going on? Like, I actually know these guys' names. Um, But yeah, I mean, he's got weapons around him now. They're healthy. Hopefully, they can stay healthy. Obviously, everybody knows I'm a big Jalen Rager fan, so I'm hoping he can stay on the field. And this team, this offense could take off, and they're probably the best team in that division, with all their guys healthy, because they actually have a defense. It didn't stop the run last week. Everybody played poorly, really, for Philly. I know Gallman, you know, did pretty decent, at least at the beginning of the game. Um, but overall, they've got a decent run stopping defense, and then that offense could be pretty good if everybody stays healthy. So he would have been my favorite. I like him more than the other two guys that we talked about. I think Wentz is very talented, just needs those guys healthy. So I'm not going to argue with you on him at all. Jason.
Yeah, I agree with both you guys, and I think he is the buy to have. And he's still young. The downfall is that his offense has been, not healthy. A lot of his weapons aren't healthy, and they're just now starting to finally come back. So this is going to give him an opportunity to redeem himself, and I think he's going to do that here down the stretch. So yeah, I like that pick a lot.
All right, so we had a question here, and we're going to answer that before we get on to our running backs. Kellis Talks over on YouTube said 4 to 6 PPR, 6 seeds make playoffs. I'm the 6th of 10th seed. Keeper, we keep whoever 3 we want. Wentz, Ryan, Moore, Shark, DK, AJ Brown, Jefferson, D. Henry, Jacobs, Hunt, and Andrews. D. Henry for J. Rob, Watson, and Higgins, Claypool. I'm kind of lost here, Kellis. I'm not sure exactly what you're asking here.
I think that second part is a trade he's talking about, and then the keepers are his main team.
D. Henry for J. Rob and Higgins. Oh, is it Higgins, Claypool, Demont, or Gaskin? One of those guys. So D. Henry for James Robinson, Watson, and then one of Higgins, Claypool, David Montgomery, and Gaskin. He would also be getting a third rounder, but it's really like a sixth because of the keepers. I mean, I would trade Henry for J. Rob and Watson, getting one of those guys. I would probably take Higgins, and run with it myself.
But it's a keeper league, right?
Yeah, it comes down to, do you want to keep Derrick Henry for the long run, or do you want to get, I mean, you got a pretty stacked squad there, so there's plenty of options for your keepers. But it's like, do you want to get rid of Henry for now and have that depth at running back and who's a solid starter?
I mean, who's on his team right now? He has Derrick Henry. He said DJ Shark,
DJ Moore,
there's
DK,
another guy,
AJ Brown,
Jefferson.
So I'm keeping 3 receivers out of that group.
No, see, so what I would do is I would keep Henry. I would just ride Henry. Because I want to keep him over Robinson, Watson, or Higgins next year. Yeah. So I would want to keep Derrick Henry, DJ Moore, and DJ Shark as my 3 keepers.
Who'd you say?
DJ Moore, DJ Shark.
Not AJ Brown, Henry. Not DK Metcalf.
I didn't know they were in there. So yeah, so I would keep
3 receivers, right?
I would keep AJ Brown. What was the other one?
He's got really good wide receivers. I would keep 3 wide receivers on this team. I would keep AJ Brown, DK Metcalf, and then DJ Moore. You've still got DJ Shark and Justin Jefferson going back into the player pool.
Who, if he trades away Derrick Henry and gets James Robinson back, who would be his second running back to finish?
Jacobs is basically Henry Light, right? So you could keep Jacobs if you wanted to keep a running back that doesn't catch passes.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so I changed my mind. I would do the deal. I would take back Robinson because I'm probably not going to keep Henry anyway. So I would take Robinson. I'd take Watson. I'd take Higgins, and I'd try to win it this year.
Yep, that's what my thought was. You've got plenty of talent to keep, and then you can make moves, right? Yep. So that's what I would do, and I would take Higgins. Even though I do like Claypool as well, but it would be between those two. Since you're getting J. Rob, Demont, and Gaskin are out of the question for me. And he has Kareem Hunt too. I mean, he's
I can't believe he's in six
Sounds
yeah.
rough.
plays. He's in
This has
sixth
been
place.
a very unfortunate season for him, I guess. It's
Yeah.
um. Okay, so quarterback, Anthony, you're first.
Running
Running
back.
back, I meant.
So I
Running
think
back.
this might be where we were all in agreement last round. I think we might start kind of rocky here. So LaMichael Pirine is my guy, and Gase says he's gonna get him the ball. I think Jets fans want him to get the ball. They don't really have any allegiance to Frank Gore. I mean, I'm a Niner fan. So if he was still in the Bay, I could see people saying, "Yeah, get Frank, future Hall of Famer." But Jets don't care for Frank Gore like that. So they want P Ryan, they want Mims, they want these young guys to get the ball to see what they got. I believe Gase will probably do that because it makes the most sense. But again, it's Gase, so maybe not. But I do think P Ryan is at a point where he's pretty inexpensive, and he's comparable this season with his volume to someone like maybe Montgomery. I wouldn't expect him to blow the lights out, but he's going to get the volume. Next 3 weeks, favorable matchups: Chargers, Dolphins, Vegas. So I just think that volume wise and for the price, it's worth the buy if you're in a pinch because you could start him in an emergency, and I think it could pay off. Jason.
Yeah, I mean, I like the pick, and I like him for the long term for sure. Like, yeah, he's a guy that I would trade for just because you say his price isn't the highest, and he's affordable, someone you can go out and get. And I mean, who doesn't want running back depth and a possible future starter? So, I mean, yeah, he's a prime suspect to go after. So, yeah. So I mean, I don't trust them for this year, of course, and in that offense and what they got going on over there. But for the long term, I do like him. What do you think, Rick?
Yeah, I'm not going to necessarily argue against it. I'm just going to look elsewhere first. He's not going to be the first guy that I go after because, we talked about this with running back. We want touchdown upside, and we're not going to get that with the Jets this year. But he does have that other thing that a lot of the guys that you're going to target aren't going to have, and that's longevity, the possibility for longevity. Well, I'm not going to sit here and say that LaMichael P. Ryan's going to be a running back for the next 3 years because we just don't know that yet. But
Right.
there is at least that opportunity and the possibility for that to happen. So I don't think he's a bad buy, mostly because of his price. But if I really need help, I'm going to look for somebody that has some touchdown upside. Um, he had Gaskin. Gaskin is a guy that I would look at, especially if you can get Ahmed to go with him until Gaskin comes back, because I think that offense, that's a team that's on the rise, and neither of those guys are very expensive right now. But yeah, so it's not necessarily that I think it's bad. It's just it's not going to be my first choice. There's going to be a handful of guys that I look to go to first before I go after any Jets running back. I mean, it could be I don't care who it was right now. They just don't have the touchdown upside to get me excited. Jason, you already talked about him, so you are up
Jason's up
next.
next too.
Yeah, so I got Duke Johnson for the Texans. He stepped in last week for David Johnson, who had a concussion. He's probably going to be out a few more weeks, in my opinion, or so they say. We'll see what happens. But, yeah, I mean, Duke Johnson's finally getting his chance to shine and, be the lead guy, which he's never really had that opportunity his whole career, which is kind of mind-boggling. I mean, he's been used as a satellite back mainly. But yeah, I mean, the thing that scares me about this is the Texans. They're not getting the greatest push on their offensive line, so I mean, they're not really creating holes for their running backs to even run in the first place. But yeah, I mean, Duke Johnson went to the Texans thinking that they'd know how to use them, just like the Browns didn't know how to use them, and he was kind of frustrated about that. So I just think that they need to utilize Duke in the passing game more because like yeah, he's the lead back now, and they're feeding him the ball and seeing what he could do. But do what this guy is good with. He's good at catching the ball. So why not, take advantage of that and utilize him more in the passing game? Because most of the time they're passing and they're down anyway. So what do you think about this pick, Rick?
I mean, everybody that's been around for a while knows I love Duke Johnson. I always have. I always wanted him to get the opportunity. But how is David Johnson out? Duke gets all the work and he gets one target in the game. Like,
Yeah,
Isn't that weird?
I didn't get that.
He is a decent runner, right? He's not the guy that you really want to have toting the ball 20 times, but he's always been an efficient runner. But he's been an outstanding pass catcher. I mean, this was a running back one at one point based on just being a pass catching running back. And they have not used him correctly. Like you said, Cleveland didn't use him correctly for the most part. But it just boggles my mind. And I said this Sunday morning too. I said, my problem with Duke Johnson, because we were talking from a DFS perspective, he was real cheap, but I said, I don't trust Houston to use him correctly. And then we see that game play out, and he gets one target. This guy should be getting 6 targets. If J.D. McKissick is getting almost double-digit targets on a weekly basis, how is Duke Johnson not getting 6 targets in a game that he starts? It boggles my mind. Houston does not know how to use their running backs correctly. And that's my biggest worry with him. If they would start targeting him and using him, and he was getting 12 to 14 carries, he would be a smash play.
Yeah, I was kind of 50-50 on him, and we talked about it before the show. I looked at his schedule, man. It's kind of brutal. He has New England this weekend, which isn't great. Following weekend's a short week. He has Detroit on Thanksgiving, so it's a short week. It's a great matchup, but it is a short week, so that's concerning. And then get this: the next 3 games, the Colts, the Bears, and the Colts. And it's like a brick wall. You know what I mean? Like, it's just not good. So I think he these next 2 weeks is probably going to be okay. New England, Detroit should be okay. David Johnson may come back. So it's kind of a little short window here. So maybe a couple weeks would be good. I'm worried about the long term of this play here. So he might be more of a sell if I'm looking a little bit further down the line. Kind of just depends on your team need, if you kind of know what I mean there.
Yeah, I would definitely, like, that schedule doesn't look good. I think both of those teams can be susceptible to the running back catching passes. So if we knew that he was going to catch passes, I wouldn't be as worried as I am about him getting 14 carries and 1 target in those games, because then he might run for 23 yards against both of those teams, and their rush defense is playing the way they are right now. So,
but David Johnson should be back, right? Because he was out for a concussion, and he was put on IR for, I guess, 3 games. But I would expect David Johnson to be back. Is that what you guys think too?
Yeah,
but I could also see a similar situation to last year. I mean, David Johnson hasn't exactly been great, so if Duke Johnson would take this and run away with it, I could see him still being serviceable. And he was getting more targets with David Johnson in play. He was getting 4 and 5.
That's true.
So it's like, this team's defense is terrible, and they're going to be behind a lot, or they're at least going to be passing a lot. So he could still see some volume in that passing game if they used him correctly. I don't know if they'll do that, and that's my biggest reservation. Could you imagine Duke Johnson, how much value he would have if he played for, like, the Chargers right now? That know how to use their pass-catching running backs? Like, it would be a night and day to what Duke Johnson is right now in Houston, and we thought maybe with Bill O'Brien gone, it did get a little bit better, right? Because Bill O'Brien left, and then he got 5 and 4 targets, and we're like, hey, unleash Duke, and then gets the start and gets 1, and it's just like, it's so frustrating.
Right.
I've always been a Duke Johnson fan. My guy is Austin Eckler, and this is a little bit different, right? He's not the cheap option that you're going to get, but he's probably cheaper than he should be. He's been out for a while, and whenever that happens, and it's not, Barkley. I mean, even Barkley's going cheaper than he should be right now. But whenever the guys are out for a while, we've seen it. Michael Thomas, they're just cheaper than they should be. And when he comes back, we just talked about the Chargers knowing how to use their running backs in the passing game. This guy is just lethal out of the backfield. it is a little scary because a lot of talk was that he should have been back by now, or that he should be closer to being back by now. So there is a little bit of risk with Austin Eckler, but that's also why you're probably going to get a better price on him than you should. And even if you pay that price and he doesn't come back, like, he is going to be their top back next year. So it's not like you're out everything if you don't get to return on him in 2020. But there is that opportunity that come playoff time, this dude just wrecks and just piles up the points for you and helps you do a championship. So I really like going out and targeting Austin Eckler here in the next week or two before your playoffs hit, and hope that he wrecks in weeks 15 and 16. What are your thoughts there, Anthony?
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm a little concerned just based on their record. They're currently 2-7. I mean, I know they lost a lot of close games, but it doesn't change their record. So, if they go even 500 and he's still out, they really gonna throw him in there when they have no chance of making the playoffs. So that's the concern. So I know you already addressed that. I think at worst he's a good buy for next year, but I'd be a little worried about their record and not knowing if he's really going to come back, Jason.
Yeah, this is a guy I want to buy for sure for the long term, and I mean, I'd want to buy him where I can. And in one of my leagues, the guy that has him, he's asking for 3 first rounders, and I'm like, who's going to give you that? I don't see
Who was
anyone doing
giving
that
that
at
before
all.
the injury? That's crazy.
Yeah, yeah, it's just craziness to me. But I mean, if that's where he values that
Right.
guy, I mean, he has that potential to be that good. So I mean, yeah, I like Eckler a lot, and he's very talented. And this guy cares about your fantasy team. I mean, he's on social media posting about it, and and looking at Chris Carson, who doesn't give two flying whats about your team. So that so I mean that's kind of a difference maker there when the guy cares about your fantasy team. Now, I mean, we're all trying to score points, and Austin Eckler is going to come back, and eventually when he's healthy, he's gonna produce. But yeah, like you say, Anthony, their record and what's going on over there, they just couldn't buy a win. So it's kind of
Yeah.
frustrating for the Chargers.
Yeah, I I want to say something right now because we don't know how this will play out, but I will tell you this. Austin Eckler is probably cheaper right now than he will be if he sits out the rest of the year, and then we get into the off season, and then the next season's draft start getting hyped up, and the mock drafts start coming out, and people start they are putting the 2020 season in the past. That's when you're going to see values for, like, Saquon Barkley come back up, Austin Eckler, if he doesn't play, come back up. So that's one of the reasons why I like getting him now. You might get some play out of him. Hopefully you do. And then his price is lower than it's going to be in the offseason for sure. Um, was that our
Yeah,
was
that's
that our
fair.
last running back?
It was.
Okay.
Yeah, we're over to Jason
Well,
now for
one
wide
second
receivers.
here. We've
Oh,
got
sorry.
Kashif over on YouTube says, with the injury to Foles, do you think Allen Robinson or AJ Brown is more valuable in PPR playoffs? So, Anthony, we'll go ahead and start with you because it looks like you got a thought on your mind.
Yeah, I mean AJ Brown, I think is pretty easily. He has a quarterback. Um, it's a very efficient offense. I mean, he looks like a man, amongst little kids. It looks like he's playing against a little pee wee football team sometimes. So, for me, it's AJ Brown, and it's not close.
Jason.
Yeah, I have to agree on that one. Yeah, I mean, it's just frustrating with Allen because Foles can't give him the ball, it seems. So yeah, I'd rather have Brown for the long run.
Um, it's a little bit different for me. I think that Allen Robinson's got more ways to get you there. It's splitting hairs, I think, between the two of them. But Allen Robinson can get there just off of receptions alone. 8 receptions for 80 yards and get you your 16 points. Where AJ Brown kind of relies on the big play a little bit more. And if he doesn't get that,
Hmm.
then you can have some mediocre weeks. Now he's super talented, but I think I prefer Allen Robinson for the floor. Plus, he does have a ceiling if the Bears' offense does make any sort of improvement. But I do think it's splitting hairs. I don't think you're really necessarily going wrong. You have a better chance of A.J. Brown winning you a week, right? Putting up a 35-40 burger than Allen Robinson. But I think Allen Robinson, even with as bad as it's been, he's still been getting you 10 to 12 points on the low side. And when he finds the end zone, it's the 18 to 20. So you've kind of got that floor and upside kind of dilemma to work out with them too. So when it comes to the playoffs, like I kind of want that guy that's not going to give me the dud. And even though the Bears offense is bad, you're rarely ever going to get the dud out of Allen Robinson. But it's like 50-50. It's like 50-50. And different rosters, I may feel differently too, right? Like if I have a roster that's got like Keenan Allen and, Julio Jones, then I might go with A.J. Brown because he's got the better chance to give me the boom week.
And you already have the
you've already
safe
got the
upside
safe
already.
guys.
Or the
But
safe
if you've
floor.
got
Yeah.
DK Metcalf and, Juju Smith-Schuster, then maybe Allen Robinson is the way you go because you need that floor guy to go with the guys that can get you the 30 bombs. So they're both good options, and it may come down to what roster I've got and who I've got on that roster and whatnot. Clutchful says, I'm looking to trade for a consistent wide receiver one. I'm willing to trade Adam Thielen, Robert Woods, Antonio Gibson. Who do I go after? So, Jason, if you were going to trade your boy Adam Thielen, what would you need to get?
Oh boy, I mean, there's a pick of a lot of guys. I mean, it just depends on what you want. I'd go after like a DJ Moore kind of guy or Robbie Anderson. I mean, just thinking about the Carolina wide receivers. Yeah, I mean, it kind of depends. I mean, I of course I like Adam Thielen. I think he's gonna keep producing. A lot of people are thinking that Jefferson's the one that's taken over, and it seems to be that way for sure. But I still like Thielen a lot, and then Robert Woods as well. Antonio Gibson's. I mean, he's still getting a lot of work, but they got J.D. McKissick, so I maybe would be looking to trade that guy out of those three to see what I can get. But I mean, it totally depends there. So what do you think, Anthony?
Well, I think it depends on your roster. I mean, if you need a running
Yeah.
back, obviously you're not going to trade Thielen for Woods. But
Right.
I prefer Woods over Thielen. So if you could tell me, hey, I can trade Thielen for Woods straight up, I'd do that in a heartbeat. He's 2 years younger. I
No,
think
he
has a
has
very
Robert
similar.
Woods. He's willing to trade Adam Thielen, Robert
Oh.
Woods, and Antonio Gibson to get a consistent wide receiver one.
Oh, okay. Well, I think it kind of just depends on who you could get then. I'm good with packaging Thielen, Woods, and Gibson and getting, DK Metcalf or AJ Brown or DJ Moore, Chris Godwin, like someone like that. I'm good with that move. If you have the depth to do it, then yeah, I'm all for that.
Mhm.
Okay, over on Facebook, we've got a question. Trading Justin Jefferson in a dynasty for Godwin, a 2021 second, 2021 first, and a 2023 fourth. What are your thoughts? I'll just say, I'm fine with that. Obviously, Justin Jefferson is great. He's been playing great, but Godwin is also a good wide receiver. And then you tie in those the 22 first, which you have to wait a little bit for, and that 2021 second. I just think that you have an opportunity to get a similar wide receiver long term, and you have some shots to take on adding another piece to your roster. So I'm willing to do that trade. What do you say there, Jason? Do you trade your buddy Justin Jefferson to get those pieces?
Yeah, that would be hard to do, but yeah, I mean, I would take that deal for sure. I mean, you get plenty of opportunities, more ammo to improve your team in the long run. So, and Chris Godwin, he's probably he is better than Justin Jefferson in my opinion. So, I mean, why not go ahead and
I mean,
take
Chris
that deal?
Godwin was like a
Yeah.
top 6 wide receiver in ADP going into this year.
That was my question to Jason. Would you trade Justin Jefferson for Godwin alone?
I'd want at least a pick or something,
Okay.
some more,
I
but
would. I would take Godwin
but
straight up.
I don't see I don't blame you if you would want to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I would. So you're gonna throw in these picks on top. For me, it's a no-brainer. So that's not.
Yeah.
Um,
That's just the icing on the cake there.
okay, we got the questions rolling in. Drop Hollywood Brown for Pittman, Samuel, or Tim Patrick. And I would say that you could drop Hollywood Brown and redraft. I'm assuming this is redraft, right? Because none of these guys are on waivers.
Yeah.
So Samuel's my first choice because of the way Carolina's using Samuel. He gets some opportunities out of the backfield. He gets targets. So Samuel would be my first choice. And then Pittman would be second. Tim Patrick would be third. Anthony, you're shaking your head. So what are your thoughts there?
Oh, I don't hate it. I would just rank Pittman higher. I like Pittman more. I think he has more opportunity. I think the offense is better. I just think the team overall is better, and that's who. Or I don't know. I guess that's a good one. The offense I think is more consistent. I would go with Pittman myself.
Yeah, I agree with that because I mean T.Y. Hilton is kind of disappearing into nothing, and I see Pittman, taking over and becoming that alpha very soon here. So we'll talk about him more later though too.
I'll tell you, if Noodle Arm wasn't thrown to Pittman, I would feel more comfortable with it, right? But I mean,
The shot put.
Pittman every week is like 4 for 50 and get you that 9 points or whatever. But
He's been hurt.
Samuel's also. Outside of this past week, I think he had 3 weeks straight over 16 fantasy points. So he's getting used plenty in that offense in different ways, and that's another thing that I like with carries and everything. But yeah, Hollywood Brown's just not. Their pass offense is just dead right now, right? So you got to get yourself some opportunity and upside somewhere else in a redraft league. So
Yeah, I mean, I think we agree with the overall premise.
yeah.
We just, you know,
Okay, so let's get these wide receivers, and then we'll get back to some more of these questions. But we do have we are 50 minutes in. Jason, you are first up, and we were just talking about Michael Pittman. So why don't you tell us about him?
good segue.
Yep. We got the guy Michael Pittman for the Colts. I see him taking over, like I said, as the alpha, and T.Y. Hilton hasn't been doing very good this year. So I think the opportunity is going to be going to Pittman, and I like what I see on tape with this guy. He's fun to watch, and he's a big receiver, and they're even letting him run the ball here and there. So I mean, he's just getting acclimated to this offense, and he had, he got dinged up a little bit to begin the year. So I think they wanted to, get him going right away, but they weren't able to. So now we're starting to see what this kid can do, and putting up that 100-yard game, 120 I think he had or so. I think that the sky is the limit for this kid, and they're gonna get it to him. So what do you think, Rick?
Yeah, I mean, Anthony was on the rookie content team last year, and he'll tell you the first time I watched Michael Pittman's tape, I was like, why are we not talking about this guy more? I was super high on him. I was way higher on him than the field was. And then everybody jumped on board when the Colts decided to take him high in the second round. And I love the kid. I don't know that we're going to see consistency out of him with Noodle Arm throwing the ball. And we do know that the Colts are a run first team too, if they have that opportunity with that defense, right? They want to play defense and run the ball if they can. Which they're kind of that Jekyll and Hyde team, right? That loses to the Jaguars in week 1 and then puts a pounding on people for a couple weeks and then struggles in other weeks. So I love Michael Pittman, though, and this guy is a long-term guy. I think he's got back-end wide receiver 1 upside in his career, and then probably a wide receiver 2 for most seasons. So I love getting him if you can get him. I just don't know if I'm confident on 2020 being a year where we can feel comfortable throwing him in there. At more than a flex play, right? Because he probably is going to get you 9-10 points a week. But is the upside really there? Would be my question for this season, Anthony.
Mhm.
Yeah, I love him. I think it's a good pick in a sense where if you have him, you're going to be happy. I disagree with the noodle arm stuff. I mean, I think Rivers is better than average. I'll say, even in his age, I think he's better than average. So I think Pittman will do fine. I think he'll be the number one target. The only thing I'm concerned about is actually just Pittman being too expensive right now. Like Jason said, he just had a 100-yard game. He had a huge run. It's like, is his price really going to be really that obtainable right now where it makes sense? And I don't think so. I think if what's more likely to happen, Pittman to not have another 100-yard game again and his value will go down, or he'll continue to keep having 100-yard games and his value will go up. I'd say the former. I think it's more likely with Phillip Rivers that he's not going to have these giant games, and if anything, his price will be lower in a few weeks than higher. So I just think his price right now is a little too high for me personally.
So if that's your take, my question would be, when you look forward, do you think his value is going to be higher than it is right now, let's say a year from now? Because while yes, it may drop, you're taking that shot of this guy. What if he has T. Higgins stretch, right? He's never going to be lower than he is right now if he has that stretch. And I think they're comparable players, right? They were real comparable coming into the season, but obviously Higgins has been healthy and has Joe Burrow throwing him the ball, and Pittman has been injured and has Rivers throwing him the ball. I do agree that his price tag has grown, but is it really so high that we don't see a lot of upside with that purchase? Because he was a early to mid second round pick to start. He might be up to a late first round pick for most people, or that should be his true value. I could still see paying that price and still getting paid off for that. If you wait, you risk that person, even if he doesn't have the big week, says, you know what, I don't want to trade Pittman now. Maybe they lose a couple weeks and then they're looking more for the future.
Yeah, I mean, I think it just depends on what you can get him for. I mean, I think a late first is fair. I just don't know if anyone who has him would sell him for that right now, just based on his big game this past week. That's what I mean.
Okay, so my guy is somebody that I've been a fan of for a long time, but didn't play well for a long time, and that's Corey Davis. But Davis has played really well this year. We've seen that Tennessee's defense is not as good as it was in the past, so they've had to throw the ball more than they really want to. Obviously they want to rely on that run game, and Derrick Henry still gets his carries, but they've had to throw the ball more than they did in 2019. And Davis has been doing well with that opportunity outside of I think the Chicago game where he got goose egged. But we anybody can get goose egged against good defenses, so that doesn't hurt very much. He's probably I would like to see. I didn't look this up, but I'm pretty sure he's the target leader on that team, the highest market share, which I can look up. But he's also got a real juicy playoff schedule, which we talked about A.J. Brown earlier. So this goes for him as well. But, I mean, they've got the Browns, Jaguars, and Lions. I want to start people against those three teams. So, that's just – Davis is not as expensive as he used to be. He's probably not as cheap as he once was, but I still think that he's got an obtainable price tag. Some of the people that have him might be like, hey, this is my chance to cash out, and you might be able to get him for a high second value, which I think would be a great value to buy a wide receiver that is getting at least a large share of the targets for a team with a good quarterback.
Yeah, I tried pulling up the target share. I know he and Brown are close. I don't have the exact
I'm going to
figure.
grab that right now so I can...
I will... Yeah, I wish you had on hand. I should have thought about it earlier. You could have maybe shared your screen. That 2017 rookie draft you had, Rick, is so funny. It's like you took Corey Davis like first overall, and then you took all these other guys afterwards, and all of them who panned out were the guys you took after Corey Davis. I love that draft.
I
You have a
can
picture
tell
of that.
you who I took. I took Corey Davis at 1. I took Leonard Fournette at 2. I had the third pick. I took Joe Mixon. Then Christian McCaffrey went at 4. And then at 5, I took who was the other big running back that year? There was a ton of running backs that year. But then I took somebody. No, I took Mike Williams there. And then I
think you took like Kamara, like in the
no,
second
I got
or something.
my other 3 first-round picks that year were Kamara, Hunt, and Ingram. And everybody smashed.
Oh,
And Corey Davis, the guy I took first, was like the piece of shit out of the group. But the target share is even 24% to both Brown and Davis. And they're pretty much even with air yards and receiving yards. A.J. Brown does have more touchdowns, 6-3. But surprisingly, A.J. Brown's A-dot is lower than Corey Davis's. I would not have guessed that, but Corey Davis has an 11.2 A-dot, and A.J. Brown has a 10.7. So that is a little surprise there.
Yeah, and for those who don't know, A-dot is average depth of target, just so people who may not know that. But yeah, that is a surprising
But their
stat.
whoppers, their weighted opportunity ratings are 59%, 57. So basically, it's just that offense just relies on them to a ton in the receiving game. So both of them, I think, are very valuable.
That goes to your point, Rick, which is you can get a wide receiver on this team who is doing arguably just as good as A.J. Brown, and he's, a third of the price tag? I mean, so I agree with you. Corey Davis is a solid buy right now for sure. Jason, any thoughts on that?
I love the pick. I mean, every defense is, they're trying to stop AJ Brown. So, Corey Davis isn't even seeing their number one cornerbacks, and that's a huge advantage for him. And he's finally putting it together to, produce and take advantage of his opportunities. So I really like what he's been doing, and it kind of sucks that it took him this long to get to where he is now, but I think it's going to pay off. And he's still young, and he hasn't had a huge injury history, so I think he's a great buy.
This is a top 5 NFL pick we're talking about. That it did take a while to really
athletic.
come on and to play as well as he has, but.
And I think he's a free agent at the end of this year. I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure
he could get an opportunity elsewhere.
He could be cashing in.
All right, we gotta speed this up. This next guy, Anthony, I think there's 0 arguments on, and this should be pretty quick and easy.
Yeah, I agree. My guy is Michael Thomas. I think his value right now is at an all-time low, at least in recent memory. He also has a great schedule coming up. He has, within the next 3 weeks, the Falcons twice, and they're one of the worst, if not the worst, pass defense in the league. So I think right now is a great time to buy Michael Thomas. Reach out to your owners who are kind of pissed off he hasn't been doing much. That everyone calls him a bust. I wouldn't say a bust. He's been hurt most of the year, so I don't think I'd call him a bust. But he hasn't done well. He has a good rest of the season schedule, and I just think he's a great buy right now. You guys agree or disagree?
0 arguments. It boggles my mind that people are actually asking if they should bench Michael Thomas, if they should trade Michael Thomas. If you can get Michael Thomas, get Michael Thomas, because this guy was the number 1 receiver going into the year. This year has been rough. It's 2020. I mean, let's not forget that.
Yeah, Corey Davis is doing great. Michael Thomas.
Right? And so, Michael Thomas is going to be fine, and he's going to have a good career. And he's got years and years ahead of him. If you can get Michael Thomas right now, it's the time to do it. No arguments, Jason.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if you can get him for a fair price and the owner is down on him, go for it and take advantage of that because, this guy is one of the most elite wide receivers in the league. And, they got Breeze is hurt, but, we can still see if there's a connection with Jameis Winston there. So it just depends on if he wants to throw it deep to him or if he wants him to run a slant route and hit him So I don't know. We're gonna see what's gonna happen with there, but yeah, this is a guy that I want to buy, and he's definitely someone that should be on your radar if someone's trying to sell him.
He's quarterback proof, people. This is Michael Thomas.
Yeah.
He catches everything that comes in his vicinity, and the more he gets on the field, the more he gets. I mean, look at Gronk, right? Gronk at the beginning of the year, everybody's like, this dude looks like he's 80, and after he got his feet under him, he's been producing. I mean, he had a 44-yard catch last week. Who would have thought Gronk was doing that the way he looked in week 2?
And even with Breeze out, it's like Jameis was a quarterback 1 last year. I mean, dude threw
Yeah.
30 touchdowns. Like, he's gonna be
Yep.
fine. So don't even fret.
Um,
In fact, if you want to tell the Michael Thomas owner, oh, now Breeze is out, what are you gonna? I mean, you can use that as ammunition here. Get MT on your
Joz Whedon says Teddy Bridgewater missing time? ? Trying to figure out what to bid on PJ Walker in Superflex 4-point pass TD. If this would depend on if it's 1 QB or I mean, oh no,
Well, I think
did
he
say
said
Superflex. It would depend on who else you've got. If you have to start PJ Walker, it's so hard for me to tell you to put money on this guy, not knowing what's going to happen with Bridgewater, right? If he ends up practicing tomorrow and you've already spent your budget, then you're like, oh shit, I just wasted all my money. But if he doesn't play and you spent all your money and you get 1 game out of PJ Walker in a super flex, then it might be worth it, right? Especially if you have to win a game. It's so hard not knowing your roster, and not knowing how PJ Walker's going to do in the NFL and not the XFL. So there's a billion question marks here. I mean, I guess I would feel comfortable putting 20% on him.
It's funny you said. It's exactly what I was going to say. 20% was exactly the number in my head. We're on the same page with that.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
20%.
The thing is he hasn't even been named the starter yet either. I mean, they still got Will Greer. You got to keep in mind in that he could even be named the starter. So I'm leaning that it's going to be Walker, but you just gotta. What's that?
Well, worst case though, even if you get Walker at 20%, you could then trade him to the Bridgewater owner if Bridgewater plays. So I don't think it's a complete waste if you do spend the fab and get him. That's all I was going to say.
Oh, yeah. You could also put like $3 on Will Greer because everybody's going to be thinking PJ Walker. So if you have another roster spot and we're not sure who's going to start, you could pick up both of them for cheap and then protect yourself if Greer would end up getting the starting job. But man, hopefully they don't go there. I'd like to see a little bit of PJ Walker excitement rather than Will Greer because we know how that plays out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Zhao Yang says, any love for Alan Lazard? And I know Anthony's got some because he was trying to talk all of us into putting him on our list. He said, I traded A-Rod, Fulgham, and my 2020 second first for Justin Jefferson, Breeze before the injury, and 2023 third. So this is 2 separate questions. So yes, I think all of us think that Alan Lazard can have some value down the stretch. Wasn't the argument that he doesn't for me and why I didn't pick him. It's just I like Corey Davis at his price and upside more because we don't know if Lazard's going to be a wide receiver 2 in the NFL for a long time. Believe Corey Davis is going to get another opportunity whether it's in Tennessee or not. So for dynasty purposes, I like Corey Davis. Lazard for a redraft may end up being better because Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay can put up tons of points, and MVS is going nuts now, and MVS isn't as good as Lazard.
So a little trade strategy I have that I'll share with you guys is if you're interested in a player like Lazard is a great example, kick the tire, tell the owner, hey, maybe we could do something. Just kick the tire, and then hope Lazard has a bad game. Because after the bad game, say, hey, man, look, you should have traded me. Look, you made the mistake. Offer him a lower offer the week after, and then move back to what you originally offered prior to the bad game. So it's a little strategy, play a little gamesmanship here. But I would definitely kick the tire on the Lazard owner, hope for a bad game, and then swoop in the week
Not
after.
all of us have enough time to do these whoop-de-doops. I'm the guy that's like, send me a trade offer, and if I like it, I'll hit accept. If I don't, I'm hitting decline, and I don't have time to go back and forth.
Yeah.
Let's make a deal.
Yeah, I have all the tricks. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, DM me, hit me up on Facebook.
So he traded A-Rod, Fulgham, and 2020 second first for Justin Jefferson, Breeze, and a 2023 third. What are your thoughts on that, Jason? He got your boy Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, I wasn't as high on Fulgham as other people were because I knew that, Philly was going to get healthy, and he kind of put up a dud last week. I mean, I'm not saying that it's going to happen every week from now on, but I mean, the kid has made a name for himself out of nothing. But to get Jefferson out of that deal, that's a great deal. I like it a lot.
Yeah.
Was it A-Rob or A-Rod?
So it's Aaron Rodgers, and if it's one QB, I love it. If it's one QB, I love it. If it's super flex, then I think I would have stuck with A-Rod, Fulgham, and the 2020 second first. Is that what you were thinking?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Oh, we got some donations here from Derrick Just, so we're gonna push them to the top because that's what happens when you donate on the Roto Heat YouTube channel. You get pushed right to the top. So he says, should I trade Dalvin Cook for Derrick Henry? I'm 5-5, surprisingly, third place, 10-team league, getting ready for the playoffs. My answer here is simply no. You keep Dalvin Cook. He played against Chicago, tough run defense. But Dalvin Cook is the guy that can get you there in multiple ways. And he does say this is full PPR. So full PPR, I'm keeping Dalvin Cook for sure. Jason, we've had a lot of people want to trade all of the Vikings, right? They beat the Bears, and everybody's like, get rid of them.
I like the talk for sure. Yeah, I'll talk Vikings trades all day. Yeah, I think Dalvin Cook's a hold. You have to hold him because this guy's a league winner. That's simply said. What do you think, Anthony?
Yeah, these next two games he's gonna come out. If you were worried about him against Chicago, he has Dallas and Carolina, then Jacksonville. Just good night. Just keep Cook.
Yeah.
Go. Oh my God, he's gonna over under on 400 rushing yards the next 3 games.
I mean, it's possible. Unfortunately, he has Tampa Bay the fourth week, so it might come to a little, and then Chicago again. But yeah, the next 3 weeks, he's gonna tear it up. He's gonna kill it.
He'll get multiple touchdowns. Over.
You're going okay.
Well, is it rushing or total yards?
Total rushing yards, just rushing yards, because we know he's going to be involved in the passing game too. But I mean, the dude was, the rushing leader going into this week, and he had missed a game and a half.
It'd be really hard for me to say under, so I'll say over too. I
probably should have said that at 450. Probably would have been more likely.
It's crazy though, like. Yeah, it's crazy, and he's upset about his last performance against Chicago. He wants to get back out there.
So Derrick Just, we're keeping Dalvin Cook, and we appreciate the donation as always. If you do donate, we bump that question to the top and get that through. So we gotta go. We gotta get these tight ends. I asked before the show how fast can we get done, guys, and it was pretty fast. But you guys have questions, we're gonna answer them. So tight end, my guy's Dallas Goedert, and it's just because I think this guy is a top 5 talent at the position. He's had 2 bad weeks after coming back from the injury, and I think that when it comes to the tight end is a mess this year, and the Goedert could be a guy that ends up being a monster down the stretch. So I'm trying to go after him if I can. No other reason than that. Anthony?
Yeah, I agree. I think Goddard's great. I think, like you said, he has had a couple bad games. I think his value has probably dipped a little bit price-wise, so I think that this is a good opportunity to buy him. I agree. Jay?
Yep, agreed. He's a buy everywhere for me. They got Ertz coming back, which doesn't really scare me at all. I mean, considering what Ertz has done in his career, but I think Dallas is going to be their tight end 1, and I think he's just going to take over, and they're going to get out of the Ertz contract. So I like the future for Dallas for sure.
All right, Jason, why don't you go ahead and segue right into your guy?
Yep, we got Eric Ebron with the Steelers. I just like what the Steelers are doing, and he's a great red zone option. He's a guy that I want to buy, and he's very cheap. So it's a great option to have that you don't have to spend the farm to get this guy, and he can be a reliable starter for you for the rest of the year and in the future. What do you think, Anthony?
I'm good with that. I have a league where it's redraft. I have Hayden Hurst and Ebron, and I'm deciding who to start this next week. So we can talk about that off air. But I think it's a good pick. I like Ebron. I like the upside. I like the offense. We talked about Roethlisberger earlier, so I agree. I think rest of season tight end's so tough right now, but he's certainly a guy to try to target. And I think I agree with you. I think he'll do fine.
Yeah, I don't mind it at all. Steelers don't want to run the ball. They had like an 80-point lead the other day, and they were still throwing touchdowns. So there's touchdown upside for Ebron, and that's what matters at tight end position. So can't argue with that at all. Anthony, you stayed in your hometown for this one.
Yeah, I had to. My guy for tight end here is Jordan Reid. If he can stay healthy, they have a really, really favorable schedule coming up. They have a bye this week, so if you need them this week, it's a bad choice. Even the following week against the Rams isn't great. It's not terrible, but it's not great. But once you get past that, they have Buffalo, Washington, Dallas, Arizona, Week 16 championship, Week 15 against Dallas. I think Jordan Reid might be the savior at tight end. And I know a lot has to kind of go his way. First, he has to stay healthy. But beyond that, I really do think that Jordan Reid is going to pull through. So he's so cheap right now. And looking at the matchup, I really think that he's a guy to target. I don't know if you guys agree or disagree with that.
I don't disagree, but I don't think you can pay more than like a fourth. But I think you should be able to obtain him for a fourth, right? Like if they're trying to get a third for Jordan Reid, then they should go to loony bin because he's not worth a third. A fourth, I definitely don't mind if you get him for that price. If he ends up only playing 2 weeks and then is injured, you're only out a fourth and you don't lose very much there. So I'm definitely on board with Jordan Reid if you can get him at that price and no more than that. Jason.
Yeah, this is another great, buy low and the guy that can be serviceable for you down the stretch here. And yeah, I stashed him everywhere I could. I put him on the IR, and now he's just sitting on my bench. But
I just love
the guy that
you just like he has IR eligibility all the time. You just throw him on my IR
right?
and wait for it.
The guy's always hurt. So I'm gonna pick him up and stash him. So now now he might be an option for me down the run here. So. Yeah, I really like to buy for him because he's so cheap, and he's one of the more talented tight ends in the league, and they don't have Kittle right now, so they like to use their tight ends too. So the opportunity's there.
Okay, we got a few more questions we're going to answer here before we get out of here. Jamison Ray, I just want to say first, if you're asking start-sit questions on Tuesday, make sure you come back Sunday morning with me and Bryce at 9:30 a.m. Or 10 a.m., 9:30 p.m. on weekdays. We stream 10 a.m. on Sundays, and we'll have more concrete answers because it's Tuesday. We don't know what's going to happen. But he said, who should I start this week? I can start 3. T. Higgins, Justin Jefferson, Amari Cooper, Tyler Lockett, or Deontay Johnson. And holy shit, you got a good wide receiver group. I think...
Well, Lockett's highly questionable on a short week. So, I think that needs to be kind of factored in. It's just too early in the week to know.
Well, if we have Dalton back this week, Amari Cooper's in my lineup. If it's not Gilbert or DiNucci, Cooper's in my lineup. Deontay Johnson has to be in your lineup because of the amount of targets he gets. I think the question comes down to who do you trust more, T. Higgins or Justin Jefferson, if Lockett's out. Because I'm starting Lockett with Russ cooking if he's in with Cooper and Johnson. I think I have to go with T. Higgins because they just throw the ball so much. Where Justin Jefferson can be game scripted out if they're ahead and they're using Cook. They're both good options, but I think Cincinnati just throws the ball so many damn times that T. Higgins is never going to be game scripted out of a game.
Yeah, for me, though, it comes down to the matchup because Jefferson's against Dallas, whereas Higgins is against Washington, one of the best pass defenses in the league. So I would go Jefferson just because of the matchup. I think, Rick, on one of the threads, you were saying, you don't look at the matchups, but You meant that for the lower tiered guys. Like I think these guys would kind of fit into that
No,
category.
these
So,
guys, I don't care what the matchup is. I mean, we just seen it with T. Higgins
oh,
last
okay.
week.
All right.
The good players, I don't
Yeah.
care about the matchup because the good players can beat good players, right? And it can go either way. I mean, a good cornerback can shut down a good wide receiver, but we've also seen many instances where a great wide receiver goes for a huge game in a game where you would say was a bad matchup. Whereas the fringe players are the guys that consistently get shut down by these guys. I mean, we just seen Jefferson. The Bears have been a great pass defense. They give up. Actually, I was
Right.
just pulling it
That's
up.
fair.
The Bears are third in the league after that 2-touchdown game by Thielen and all the yards they gave up to Jefferson. They're still third in the entire NFL at points to wide receivers. But
So if Jefferson can kill the Bears, he certainly can kill the Cowboys.
and I'm not saying he can't, but the problem is that the Cowboys are bad, and if they play bad, and it's just a Dalvin Cook Madison day, we know that Minnesota can go and turn it off and only throw the ball 15 times in a game if they have the lead. We know that that's
and then they'll just run the
and
ball.
and that's the only reason Jefferson could have an 80-yard touchdown and get there for you. But we know Cincinnati throws the ball 50 times a game. There's zero chance that T. Higgins doesn't get targeted, and he's been beating good matchups, right? And this last week, it was even in the wind, where we didn't know that, like, we didn't think Pittsburgh was going to throw very much, and they put up a billion points, so Cincinnati had to continue throwing the ball the whole time. So, that would be my only difference.
I picked Jefferson. You'd pick Higgins. Jason, you gonna go with Jefferson for me? Skull?
Yeah. I mean, I think Rick hit it on the head with his assessment on the whole thing. I just think you should join the show on Sunday, and we have a great time on that. And we'll answer those questions on there because I mean it's too early right now. But yeah, I like Deontay Johnson. If I had to pick right now, Amari Cooper, like you said, when Dalton's back in there, and then probably Justin Jefferson or T. Higgins. So I mean, you get a lot of good options there.
Which one?
I'll go Jeffy.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not necessarily arguing against Jefferson, right? Like this dude, you have awesome wide receivers. I'm not gonna be like, oh no, you're starting a shitty wide receiver no matter who you put in there. Like if you started any three of these guys, I'm not gonna really argue it.
And if Lockett is active on Thursday, we're debating this for no reason because
right.
Must-win
game flex spot: McKissick, Duke, Higgins, Cooks, AB, or Godwin. Flex spot must-win game.
Godwin. Right, Godwin.
1 second here. Who does? Brandon Cooks has been playing really, really well lately. And Houston always has to throw the ball, too, because they give up so many freaking points. And it's really Fuller and Cooks that get the action. Whereas
Cobb.
Do what?
Randall Cobb.
Okay, a little bit of Randall Cobb. But in Tampa Bay, it's a number of guys that can be the guy on any given week. So,
I go.
Again, I would have to look more into this. Come back Sunday morning, Colin. I want to help you out, but I got to look more at everything when I get my studying in for those matchups. Sunday morning, I'll be able to help a lot more. So come back Sunday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern, and I promise I'll have a better answer for you there. Fabian says, hey, I have a question. Start Jimmy Graham or Hunter Henry for weeks 12 and 13. We're not even in week 12. I have no idea.
I'm just gonna say Hunter Henry as a default.
I would say Hunter Henry too.
I mean Jimmy Graham.
Pick up Jakeem Grant or hold Mooney. Jakeem Grant because Tua's better than Foles. There we go. Any arguments there?
Well, yeah.
If it's Dynasty, I'm keeping Mooney.
If it's Dynasty, I'm keeping Mooney. Yeah.
I'm just assuming if you're dropping Mooney, it's not Dynasty and it's redraft.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, guys, we're going to answer start-sit questions Sunday morning. Real hard to answer those on Tuesday. A lot can change between now and then, and I never feel comfortable doing those questions this early in the week. He said McLaurin or Woods if Lockett doesn't play. I'm starting McLaurin every week.
Agreed.
Yeah, he's a stud.
Then we have CeeDee Lamb or Jerry Jeudy if Lockett does not play as well. if Dalton
Well, it depends on
if
the
Dalton
yeah.
plays,
I mean, it's too early in the week.
if Dalton plays, I'm starting CD Lamb.
Right.
Everybody agree?
Yeah,
Yeah, I
because
agree.
Locke isn't probably going to play this. I mean, it's too early in the week. But yeah, I agree.
Pick up Cam Newton or Tua to replace Brady this week. I'm going with. I would have to look at the matchup.
We played Chargers. I know the Miami plays
No,
the
they
Chargers.
just played the Chargers.
Oh, never mind.
I like Tua personally.
See, Cam Newton's bad, but he puts up fantasy points.
Yeah, it's true.
Dolphins have Cardinals. No, they don't. Never mind. That was Broncos. Patriots.
Dolphins are favored to win this game. Look at
Dude,
that.
Dolphins are good. What are they? 6-3 now?
Yeah. Yeah.
Patriots have.
3-0 with
I'm
Tua.
going Cam Newton against the Texans because the Texans defense can't stop anybody. I love Tua too,
Yeah,
but I'm
that's a
going
good
Cam
matchup
Newton
there.
here in this game.
Yeah, they should throttle them.
Yeah, I'm good with that. I think they're both kind of like the same kind of tier for me. So I think you can go either way.
Okay,
with
Miles says start Robinson or Gibson this week. I'm assuming he's talking about James Robinson because it's running back, and I'm starting James Robinson every week. He gets too many touches.
Yep.
And he's been good. He's one of the few workhorse backs in the league. I'm starting James Robinson every week.
Agreed.
I'm good with that. They do have a tough schedule coming up, but this week for
The
sure.
nice thing about him is he never gets game scripted out because he actually catches passes too. So even if the run defense is tough, if that funnels them into more short passes, then he can still work you out some points in that way. But he's literally rushed well against everybody that he's played so far this year. So.
Yeah, I really do. Their playoff schedule, Jacksonville for James Robinson, just so people know. Week 14, Tennessee. Week 15, Baltimore. Week 16, Chicago. Ooh. I don't know.
That is rough. But this week, James Robinson.
Yeah, against Pittsburgh. But still, I'd go with
Brady says Nick Chubb or Mike Davis, and the answer is always Nick Chubb.
That's not even close for me. Yeah.
A-Game Grizzy says Jefferson or Pittman. And I don't know if this is start, sit, or long-term or what, but the answer is Jefferson no matter what.
I agree.
That was the last one.
Skull.
I think we had a good show. I think we covered a lot of guys, and we appreciate everybody coming in. Derrick, we appreciate the donations. That goes a long way. I want to remind everybody to hit up rookiedraftguide.com. Get your email in there. We're working hard to get that out for 2021 rookie content. If you want to know everything there is to know about these rookies, it's coming. A lot of work's going in behind the scenes. And we're excited to unveil that to everybody once it gets to a point to unveil. And then Elias, I think is how you say his name. It said, should I pick up Mixon or Monster? I don't need them for this week. I'd pick up both if you can.
Absolutely, if you can.
Both if you can.
Yep.
What was the one
Mixon,
guy? He's the
Mixon
first guy?
or Mostert? It's Mixon if you can only do one. But I would try to get both if Mostert's going to be back. But that I don't know. Is he going to be back in 2 weeks?
He's trending to be back this week, I heard.
Okay.
So we'll see.
If Mostert and Mixon and Mostert could both be back this week, then I would try to get both of them.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep.
I mean, I would prefer
Mixon first, then Mostert, but I would try to get both. Even if you get both and you can't start both, you're blocking somebody else from having them on their roster, which is never a bad move.
Yep.
All right, guys. Do you have any last words?
Well, no. I mean, like I always say, anyone has any questions anytime, hit me up on Facebook. I'm happy to help anyone out anytime.
Yep, join the Discord in our Facebook group and join on all other great shows that are for free and they're a great time.
I will drop here real quick the Discord link.
Yeah, that's been heating up. I've been trying to rile some guys up in there. So if you guys have any questions, start sits, anything, get into the Discord. It's been a lot of fun of late.
Join us there. Again, we love every one of you. We appreciate you coming and spending time with us on Tuesday nights. Tomorrow night is the Fantasy Inferno. That is the redraft-centric live stream that we've got every week. So hang out with Brad, Rob, and Bryce on Wednesday night, and then come back Sunday morning, like I said, for the pregame tailgate with Bryce and I, where we just sit here answering questions. You guys ask your questions. We get backed up big time on Sunday mornings. But you ask them, we answer them, and hope to help you. Oh, Derrick with another donation right here at the end.
Nice.
What to do with Austin Eckler? Do I trade him or keep him? And I think we've already talked about Eckler a little bit today. I think the consensus is you keep Austin Eckler, and wait for, if you want to trade him, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but wait for him to come back and get some action. And even if you have him right now, like I mentioned earlier, and I think we were all agreeing, even if he doesn't play the rest of this season, his value will go up as we get closer to draft season next year, when people start, studying and the ADP and mock drafts and everything start coming out. He'll be another popular name. Right now is the worst time to sell. Any disagreements there?
Agree.
Yeah, I mean, unless the guy is willing to overpay, and you're getting a huge advantage, like a bunch of draft picks and a couple players in return or whatever. That's the only way I'm gonna sell Austin Eckler. I mean, like you say, he's gonna come back and his value's gonna go up. So you're better off just holding him and waiting it out.
If you had to guess, Anthony, where do you think Eckler falls into ADP next year? And just overall, where would you say he ends up getting taken in drafts, startup drafts next year?
Like a round or like a pick number?
Like a round.
I would say probably like 4th, 5th round.
Really?
I would say.
I'd say third.
I was gonna say like late second, early third is where I was.
Oh no, I don't
I think
so.
he'll absolutely be there.
Yeah.
And part of the reason is this year at running back and what we've seen with not having that workhorse back, right? And we're seeing guys like, right now, if Austin Eckler would have been healthy, he might be second in the league at running back in receiving and receptions, right? Because McKissick's like number 3. And people are going to remember that. They're not remembering it right now, but I'm pretty sure that Austin Eckler will be a late second to early third come next season.
No, I think he'll fall in as a good value around the 4th round. I mean, if I was doing a startup, he would be like one of my targets. I think he would be a great value, like in the 4th round. I don't think you'll see him in the 3rd or higher. Well, I mean, we'll see. Let's make a note.
Melvin Gordon was a 4th round pick this year. Melvin Gordon and
that's fair. That's fair. I mean, I like Eckler. He's on a couple of my rosters. I think he's a firm hold. I'm not selling low. I think he's a good hold. I think he's set up good for next year. A lot of people will be saying, "Hey, he had basically a year off. He's going to have fresh legs. He's in a high octane offense with Herbert and all them." So, I think he's a good hold for right now.
All right, that is going to be it for this show. Make sure you hit that like, subscribe, and notification bell over there on YouTube. If you're on Facebook, if you have more questions, drop them in the chat. You can tag any of us, and we will be glad to help. Thank you all again for spending time with us, and this will be the Dynasty Heat Seekers for week